Mr. Crawford.
Chair Leininger, members of the committee, my name is Seth Crawford. I teach at Oregon State University and am a marijuana policy researcher. My focus is on marijuana market structures. My research has been focused on Oregon for the last 3 years, and I just wanted to offer a few insights that maybe you could take to bat against this particular piece of legislation. First, I wanted to commend all of you for being able to put together two very workable bills, despite what's happened in the committee, creating parallel paths between the medical market and this newly formed recreational market. I think it's really important for us to all recognize that we are not just creating a new formal market that's coming out of nowhere. We are actually moving a very robust, very long-standing, existing informal market into this newly formalized marketplace. And one of the things that I think that we need to take into consideration to make this a successful transition is that existing underlying structure. One of the things that people have asked questions about at this committee is how much marijuana is being produced in the state of Oregon, how much is being consumed, what's the demand. These are basic research questions that I believe need to be addressed. Some of my work has addressed that, and the research has demonstrated that Oregon already produces enough marijuana. We have enough to meet the internal demand, and we can do that fairly easily. The more interesting aspect of that to me is who the producers are at this point and where they're located. In the state of Oregon, most producers on a per capita basis are growing marijuana in places that are, one, ecological niches for this particular agricultural crop, but two, they're also doing it in communities that have been very economically disenfranchised over the last 30 to 40 years, in particular Southern Oregon, Josephine, Jackson counties, Douglas County as well. I think it's really important to be able to take that into consideration as we weigh some of the factors that will be going into, I think, the most important component of this legislation, which is the plant count limits, the canopy size, and the tax rates. Again, I'd like to offer my support from an academic side. Having a flat tax rate on marijuana products at the point of sale just makes sense for a number of reasons, but it also simplifies in a very meaningful way the discrepancies that we often see with marijuana products. We don't need to worry about THC percentages or anything like that. We'll have a flat tax. I think that's a great approach. I would implore you, however, to hold maybe even an additional session to discuss some of the implications of having particular plant counts and canopy sizes. Some of the earlier projections that I'd seen bandied about, we're talking about 10,000 square feet as the internal, as an inside and indoor canopy size cap. And tell you with a very, very high level of certainty that if you were an indoor grower in Southern Oregon, the way that you can talk about land use law, greenhouses can be either indoor environments or outdoor environments depending on the foundations and the way that they're constructed. If you're in Southern Oregon, 10,000 square feet, 6 cycles in one particular year would be enough to meet the entire demand of the newly created recreational market. It's about 30,000 pounds. So it's incredibly important for us to be able to tackle, I think, these issues and to do so with enough time. The last thing I would like to say is that if you were to start from scratch and be able to design some sort of economic sector in a way that would provide democratic access for producers, for consumers, for people who are involved in it, and make it the most egalitarian system that you could possibly have, you would do what we have right now in the existing marijuana market in the state of Oregon. Because it was illegal, it forced producers to remain very small, and there were a lot of benefits that were accrued by a lot of people, and we have over 45,000 grow sites registered in the state. Any type of restriction on those sizes or making it harder for people to get a license is, I think, going to end up resulting in economic inequality, increased economic inequality, and in particular, it's going to hit Southern Oregon economies and communities at a much disproportionate rate compared to other counties across the state.
Thank you. Representative Buckley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Crawford. I would welcome any recommendations you might have in terms of if we do have a canopy size or a plant count included in the bill. I'd welcome your recommendations on what those would be. In any, if you have time to delve further, not now because committee time is rare, but in terms of the economic impact on people who desire to be part of this industry, of how we might design the license procedures to make sure that we're not putting barriers in the way of people who are currently low income. I'd appreciate your help on that.
Great. I think Senator Cruz had a hand and then Senator Ferrioli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be more than happy to work with Representative Helm, although working with somebody so young is going to be tough. But I actually think that Mr. Crawford might be helpful to us, well, this whole panel probably, as we get in, because land use does get into size too, so, yeah.
Good point. All right. Senator Ferrioli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Crawford, I think we've had this conversation before, but can you provide just a range of an estimate of what the total production currently of Oregon grows is?
Yeah, I would hesitate to say that we could get anywhere near a very specific number, but the estimates that I've provided, the state consumes about 150,000 pounds, and we produce roughly 3 to 5 times that amount.
3 to 5 times 150,000 pounds. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Thank you so much, panel, for your input.